Mics are hot.
Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Coffee and Sports. My name's Matt Donnelly. I'm joined with my co host, Andrew Scheid, and we've also got the wonderful Nick Johnston in the building. I think he got the nickname Rooster last night on the Triton College radio show. Not quite sure. Still trying to feel that one out. But we're here today, and we're going to be talking about a few different things. We've got a big news day, especially in the world of football today. We've got the Bears possibly, likely, potentially moving to Hammond, Indiana. We're going to discuss all that. We're also going to talk about the Sox and Cubs starting their spring training tomorrow. That's very exciting. And then we're going to end with a little bit of golf talk on Tuesday. Andrew was talking about bowling, and I'm gonna spill the beans a little bit about my thoughts on the PGA playoff system, signature events, and all that stuff. But let's start with Hammond, Indiana. Andrew, first and foremost, we got the news breaking today that the Indiana House of Representatives committee that's kind of responsible for this type of things along the lines of entertainment and sports and things like that, they voted 24 to nothing unanimously to approve basically funding for the Bears to come into Indiana. They'd fully fund them, their stadium, their lease, everything like that. Andrew, what do you think about the idea of the Bears moving to Northwest Indiana?
Well, and thank you, Matt, for welcoming me in. Um, I'm just really ready to see what these guys can do. Um, and I mean, it's crazy to think of that, right? It's crazy to think of this team not being part of Chicago, but we have to realize that there are a lot of teams that don't play in the respective cities that they represent, correct?
For sure. Yeah, you've got, well, one of the most obvious ones in the world of football right now is the San Francisco 49ers, even though they are located in San Jose. You've got the Jets and the Giants. They live in New Jersey, right across from New York there. So, it's not the end all be all, but I can understand people's nostalgia, their connection to the city of Chicago, especially that lakefront property, of definitely a very historical site, Soldier Field, a lot of memories there. And moving away definitely is hard. It looks like that was going to be, on the table regardless. Do you think that it matters that they're moving, or potentially nothing's set in stone yet, but it seems like they might be moving to Northwest Indiana? Do you think that is worse than going to Arlington Heights, Andrew?
I really don't think it is worse. Here's why. People are going to say, oh, but I have to leave Illinois to go to a Bears game. But when you look at it geographically, it's no farther from someone that lives in the suburbs like you or I to go to a Bears game from where we're at to go to India. It's the same distance.
Closer even. when
And
when
it's
you when you
closer for some people out in the city, like you just said.
well, and when you think about the fact that they're moving from Chicago downtown there to Northwest Indiana, when you actually look at where the property is, it's physically less than, as the crow flies, less than a quarter mile from the state line. And what's right across that state line? Hegewisch in Chicago. So it's much closer to actual Chicago than Arlington Heights would be. That would be a 45-minute drive out of the city rather than just, right across the property line there, state line there into Indiana.
Right. That might be a little closer for you and me in Arlington Heights, but not necessarily from someone coming from the city limits.
Yeah,
Right.
well, for me, I grew up in Oak Forest. Uh, Hammond would be a lot closer for me. That would have been awesome actually. But even still, the fact that I don't think we should get too caught up in this whole property line thing. I know
Right.
we're a lot of people are being blamed. Uh, Along whose fault is it? Is it Pritzker's fault? Is it Johnson's fault? Is it this, that, and the other? And at the end of the day, this is a sports and political discussion kind of mixed into one. But at the end of the day, I don't think it is too detrimental to, it shouldn't be too detrimental, in my opinion, to the fan base, to those who follow and support the Bears, to say, hey, we're going to be in Northwest Indiana now. We're not going to technically be in the state of Illinois, but I've seen people say things like, well, it sucks that Indiana gets two teams now. And it's like, Hammond, especially where they're at, that's not. I know it's Indiana technically. That's not really what I consider Indiana. That is the Chicagoland area right there. That just happens to be in a different state.
Right. And let's not forget there are a lot of people that live in Hammond, Indiana that are a bunch of Bears fans. And here's the thing people need to realize is, like you said, like, whose fault is it? It's not the Bears' fault. And I've seen it on social media all day. Oh my God, the McCaskies are getting greedy. That's all this is. They're greedy. They want, they want more. It's not the McCaskies. It in my opinion, it's the Illinois lawmakers, cutting off their nose to spite their face, and they put themselves in this position.
They could, but at the same time, when you look at the history of how stadiums are publicly funded, it's always kind of befuddled me the fact that stadiums, in some ways, are paid for by the taxpayer, by the local government, by the state government. It's a private entity in the Chicago Bears. It's usually, unless you're the Green Bay Packers, it's always going to be a private entity. And so therefore, when we're talking about the stadium and everything, yeah, you could talk about things like money coming in, right? Revenue for the local area. But truly, in my opinion, when you look at the studies, it largely does not benefit the local economy to the extent that they sell it for when they're saying, hey, we need the public funds to come in and build this stadium. So at the end of the day, I think the number was $855 million that the Bears were looking for from the taxpayers. In my opinion, if if Indiana wants to give that money and we can spend those $855 million on something else, it is what it is. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And truly, with any type of private entity like this, it's always risky and it's always tough, especially when we're trying to save money these days, especially when the economy's not at its best. To that 855 million, at the end of the day, you're a private organization. You should pay for it yourself.
I have a question for you, and it begs begs the question, Matt. Will Chicago push back? And we have a lower third saying that. Will Chicago push back? Or is this the end of the fight for Illinois to keep the Bears here in the state?
It's interesting because I saw that the governor of Indiana was asked about what if you're just being used for leverage, right? What if we're just positioning Indiana as the front runner to then have Illinois come in and swoop in? And he said, at the end of the day, it is what it is. We're going to be ready. We're going to be good to go on this. We want this to happen on the Indiana side of it. They're not too stressed about it. And truly, if that is what ends up happening, I think that we could just throw even more shame upon Kevin Warren for not only dragging this out as long as he has, but also making this just a debacle in every sense of the means, playing with money, playing with resources, playing with the fans, playing with politicians. He's done a terrible job from day one. And if he does use Indiana as leverage, I think it just makes him even scummier in the long run.
Right. And one thing I want to say, I don't think Brandon Johnson is really involved in this fight anymore. I think it's more Pritzker that has taken on the mantle of, okay, we have to fight to keep him in Illinois, not just keep him in Chicago, but keep him in Illinois, which I think is the big thing of all of this, is just keeping him in the state. It's gone from keeping him in the city of Chicago to just keeping him in the state. So we said, will Chicago push back, but also will Illinois push back? Because there was a meeting slated for Springfield this morning, and the Bears actually had Illinois lawmakers postpone that meeting in Springfield this morning. So are they really, really strongly looking at Indiana, or is that just to say, because Indiana just passed this bill and we don't want to make it look like Chicago's just trying to one-up them, or Illinois is trying to just one-up them? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think it all comes down to what do the Bears want to do, because they can do whatever they want to do in this situation, because they've got Indiana on their side saying, hey, we'll flip the bill for everything. And then you've got Illinois saying, we don't want to give you the $855 million or however much money they're looking for. You've got one state that's going to say, hey, we can do it all. And then you've got another state that's saying we're not going to do it all. And it really just comes down to the Bears saying what's more money is, or what's more valuable. Is it the money, or is it the, connection to the state and the city, and those ties? Getting back to it all again, they're still going to be in the Chicagoland area. They're going to be less than a quarter mile from the city of Chicago if they move to Northwest
Right.
Indiana. So this ultimately, I think, just boils down to money, property taxes, etc. And I don't think it's the biggest deal. And for me, I think it would be even better than Arlington Heights. What do you think?
I mean, honestly, I was kind of excited when I heard of Arlington Heights because I'm only in Carroll Stream right now, so
Yeah,
that's
it's
a
closer to
little
you, yeah.
closer to me to go to a Bears game. But I have to say that whether they move to Arlington Heights, stay in the city of Chicago, or go to Indiana, it shouldn't make a difference. If you're a true Chicago Bears fan, you'll travel with the team. If they're winning, you'll watch. That's my take on it.
Yeah. And who knows, I've never gotten to go to a Chicago Bears game because they're too expensive.
Yeah, neither have I. I'm in the same boat with you.
Yeah, I could have gone to several preseason games, but I don't really care for the quality of preseason. So I'd rather go to real games, but they've always been so expensive. And, you can blame that on a variety of things. But who knows? Maybe if they do move to Indiana, that'll, maybe drive down some ticket prices a little bit. I don't know. Maybe we can play around at Lost Marsh Golf Club before across the street and everything. We'll talk about golf later. That's fine. But
I was going to say, when we come back from break, Matt, we're going to be talking some PGA golf, which is your sport.
Yeah.
Now I hear. So can you want to tease us about that?
Well, before we get to the PGA golf, we're going to be talking about the Cubs and Sox starting their spring training tomorrow. When we come back, Andrew will take the lead on that, and we'll hear all about what's going down tomorrow.
Thanks, sir. Hot.
Welcome back, everybody, to Coffee and Sports. My name's Matt Donnelly, joined with my co-host, Andrew Scheid. And Andrew, we got some spring training baseball tomorrow. And as always, we've got the Cubs and Sox kicking off against each other tomorrow from Camelback Ranch, I believe. Well, I can't remember exactly if it's in at the Sox facility or the Cubs facility, but I know it's going to be in Arizona somewhere. And we've got some finally spring training baseball. It's been about 4 months worth no baseball, and we're getting back to it. So, Andrew, what do you think we're going to expect to see from these two squads tomorrow?
Well, I will say this, and I've been waiting for this day for a long time. It seems like since the NFL season started, you're waiting for baseball season to get underway. and I'm just super excited for everything that's going to happen. I'm excited for tomorrow because Cubs are playing the White Sox. Let's not forget that Cubs are playing the White Sox for their first spring training game. I don't think that's happened yet in their history, at least from what I can find. I don't think they played each other to kick off a spring training season like that.
Okay, cool. Well, that's going to be exciting. It's Sloan Park tomorrow. And, it's one of those when we get back into baseball, these February games, they've been playing or they just started practicing I believe for the Sox. I can't confirm for the Cubs. I'm sorry to all my Cubs fans listening and watching right now that I don't know the exact report dates for the Cubs, but I know for the Sox, February 10th was their pitchers and catchers, and February 15th was everybody else. So now this is their first time they're actually going to get on the field this season and play a little bit. And typically what we'll see from spring training is not a whole lot of stars coming out to shine early in February. It's usually maybe an inning here, an inning there, and Andrew, are you hoping to see anybody tomorrow? Any big names that we might see crack into the lineup or get on the mound?
Here's what I think's gonna transpire tomorrow, and I've said this on multiple radio shows preparing for this game tomorrow. If you're expecting to see big name guys like Alex Bregman, Munetaka Murakami for both sides of the ball, if we do see them, I think most you'll get is an inning. I think if you really want to see, if you're a White Sox fan, if you really want to say Mune play that bad, watch the WBC this year because he will be playing for Team Japan. If you really want to see him in that true game experience, right? That's kind of where you would want to watch him before the season starts. Now, I wouldn't really want to watch him in a spring training setup because he's still trying to find himself here in the majors, right? He hasn't even played an inning in regular season ball. So, I mean, I would like to see both Alex Bregman and Mooney out there for an inning tomorrow. Doubtful. Braden Montgomery is another one I would like to see on the White Sox side of the ball just because the way he's been tearing it up. And I highly anticipate him being brought up at some point this year to the big club in Braden Montgomery because he's just been tearing it up at that minor league level for the White Sox. So, I mean, that's what I'm expecting to see, and just good play out of both teams and just ready to get the season started. And I do believe, and I'll say this here live, I do believe that to start every opening day when the season starts, I feel like every team at the ballpark should be playing, the John Flaherty song Center Field to start each. I feel like each ball club should play that game to start each season because every time I hear that song, it just gets me in the mood for baseball.
Oh, yeah. And it's nice too because it's weird. I'm sure in Arizona you can feel it a little bit more since it's warmer there. I know here watching baseball when it's going to be sub 32 outside, it's a little odd to feel. And then once we get into the March and April swing of it, then it'll start to heat up and everything. But I like what you said about Braden Montgomery there, Andrew, because really, when it comes down to it, these early spring training games, they are really about who are we going to see that can be up and coming in single A, double A, and potentially triple A. But who are some of these guys that we can see that will be big key contributors down the road?
Right. And Matt, if I could interrupt, we actually have some highlights here we're going to show for the first time in our new setup here. So we got some White Sox highlights from a game against the Cubs last year. Here, you can see Southpaw getting warmed up there. God, I can't wait to see Southpaw this year. Now, obviously, a lot of these guys you're not going to see this year. Some trades happen. I think Adrian Hauser has moved on from the White Sox. But just to see some of these guys, like you see Miguel Vargas there, he's going to be with the Shota Imanaga is another one you're going to see with the Cubs this year. And he's talked about it too, where he said the first year of the MLB, he touched up the MLB. Last year, the MLB kind of touched him. So now he's got to figure out where things go with that. But just in this game, the White Sox touched up the Cubs, which we did not see a lot last year. But it was just nice to see that. And it was at our home base. And God, I love those new City Connect jerseys for the White Sox. Those are just awesome. And yeah, I mean, it's just an awesome feeling, Matt.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get back into it here. And it's one of those seasons that it could go either way for either team. The Cubs are coming off one of their most successful seasons in
Right.
recent memory, and this is hopefully a building year for them. With the Sox, they're looking for some kind of actual success here. They're
Right.
looking for something that they can build upon and be hopeful for. It's really giving me kind of 2018, 2019 vibes right before their launch into winning the division in
Right. I remember I was
2021.
actually there that game they clinched the division. Speaking of the White Sox here, we got some highlights for the Cubs actually.
Nice,
Because
nice.
we were talking about how dominant they were last year and they made it so close to the World Series. But this first play I like because my mom is in love with Dansby Swanson, and this play he made last year at third place. I don't know if you're ever gonna see this again. Like
Yeah,
I
I
don't
know
know
which
what
one.
happened here.
I know which one you're talking about. It was a pretty exciting play there.
Yeah, I mean this Cubs team just defensively and offensively are just well put together. Now I'm not going to say they're stacked like the Los Angeles Dodgers, but they are well put together. They're a contending team, and I'm really expecting this Cubs team to move very far this year. I mean, Matt, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think for the Cubs this year, they could have made a few more moves, I thought, but the moves that they did make were, I think, intentional and substantial enough to, get what they need done, at least at third base. And they're going to have to add more, in my opinion, unless they make a giant leap. I don't see them going from what they had last year and then just adding Bregman there. I don't think that that's going to be enough to propel them to World Series contenders, but I can definitely see them being the prominent team in the NL Central and then going beyond, trying to see, what they can do in terms of challenging the NL West, which I think is going to be the, premier division in the National League there. So,
Right. One thing I want to talk about before we get out here, who do you think we are going to see day one out of the gate?
ooh, that's a good question. I think for both teams here, I'd say for the Sox, definitely. I'd say Braden Montgomery, like you mentioned earlier. I wouldn't also be surprised to see Schultz pitch maybe a little bit. Maybe not a full inning, maybe just a little bit here or there. I could see that from the Sox, and for the Cubs, I'd say I want to be completely surprised if we saw. I don't know. Who are you thinking for the Cubs?
I mean, and I'm going to say it, like I said before, I would not be upset if I saw Alex Bregman for at least one at bat.
Yeah,
Let's be honest.
it might be a
I would
little
not
early,
send him
but
out there defensively, but maybe put him in that DH spot, maybe one at bat, because we know with spring training, you take guys out and put them in all game long.
yeah,
That's a big part of spring training. So you could put him in there for an inning, then stick someone else at the DH spot in the next inning.
yeah.
So just to give him that chance in day one, I think that the Cubs should. I'm not saying they will. It'll be interesting to see. I think you're going to see a lot of minor league system
for
guys
sure.
playing tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's also part of it. I'm not 100% familiar and comfortable with who the Cubs were picking up for their single A team this year, so that might be some of those lower level guys, but it'll be exciting for sure. I'm just excited the baseball's back, and hopefully we get to see some good action, some good prospects playing, and kicking off right before the World Baseball Classic.
Yep.
So
Want to tease what's coming up here,
yeah,
Matt?
sure. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the PGA, something we don't talk about a whole lot on here, but we're going to be talking about their playoff format as well as signature events, what those are, and why they might need to change.
Mics are live and one.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Matt Donnelly, joined as always with my co-host Andrew Scheid. And for our final segment today, I'm going to take you down the wonderful world of PGA golf, which I know that a lot of people aren't super familiar with. A lot of people think golf, that sounds really boring. That is really boring. I don't like to play it. Whatever, I get it. Golf is growing, and I think as we see the rise of golf in popular culture, especially with going to the events, we've seen that become a massive trend. We've seen that with the Waste Management Open that has gotten a lot of press in recent years, maybe a little bit of negative press at times, but we'll see, Alex. Have a good one. It doesn't always get the best press in terms of the rowdiness of some people there, but certain household names are starting to come about, much like in the late 90s and early 2000s, the name Tiger Woods was. People know Tiger Woods, whether you like golf or you don't. And now we're starting to see some of that rise with guys like Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, in previous years, Justin Spieth and Thomas. So Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas, my bad. I get them mixed up sometimes. But Andrew, tell me what you know about PGA golf, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the playoff format.
Oh, what's going on, guys? Andrew Scheid back here with Matt for Coffee and Sports. And I don't know much about golf, and I've admitted to you what actually got me back into golf was Happy Gilmore 2.
Yeah.
And golf purists might scoff at me for saying that, but that's what got me back into golf this year. But I have to say, one guy I've been following really close is Bryson DeChambeau.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one guy I really do like.
And I'm all for it in the sense that, and that's the whole thing why Bryson was kind of a controversial figure in the PGA world with Live Golf and everything. But we only got about 6 minutes left here for our show, and so I'm going to condense it as best as I can. This is how the PGA works. It's new this year, there's only 100 guys that have this thing called a PGA Tour card. That means they can go and play all of the events, aside from the signature events. We'll get to those in a second. But they have this card. It used to be 125 players had the card. They've reduced it down to only 100 players now. And essentially, if you finish outside of the top 100 now, you are at risk of losing your tour card. You can go to this thing called the PGA Fall in the fall and compete in these tournaments. If you do well enough there, you can earn temporary status and everything and still play your way back onto the tour. But the way that the playoffs are structured, of that top 100, the top 70 are then put into this playoff field. And then they're ranked 1 through 70 in terms of FedEx points. Each tournament, how they do, they get a certain amount of points with it. And so because of that, the better players get more points and the players that finish lower get lower points. And so each week in the playoffs, they start with 70. And then they'll play the tournament. If they do really good, they could rise up the points list and they can get into the top 50, which is the next goal. And then from top 50, they go to top 30, and then top 30, that's kind of it.
Right.
Now, these things called signature events, which you can see here, those are only for the players in the top 50 from the previous year. Only they can play in it. Plus some extra guys in the Aon Swing and the Aon Next 10. There's a lot of things here, Andrew. There's a lot of things that go into it. But essentially, it's very top heavy. And the way that these signature events, which there are, I believe, 7 of them throughout the early parts of the season, they're only eligible for these top players. So what do you think, Andrew? There's only 100 spots. There's thousands of golfers competing here. But these signature events, which, mind you, the prize money is more than doubled and the points are doubled, only the top players are able to play in those. What do you think about that? I know that was a lot of talking, and I apologize. Had to set it up, had to explain it. What do you think about that, though?
No, you're good, and you've taught me a lot. But one thing, it's just going to be, I feel it's going to be a battle. If you get just over 100 spots and you got 1,000 golfers, that's going to be a really, if you love to watch golf, that's going to be a fun battle to watch. It's going to be a fun battle.
Well, but here's the thing, though. The battlefield, let's say, is only open to the top 50 in these signature events. And again, there's no cut in a lot of them. So that means you're getting points regardless. If you finish high, you're getting double the amount of points. So if you're good, you're already getting propelled even further. You kind of have to try to not make it the following year. So it's almost as if of those 100 spots, 60 of them seem to already kind of be locked up. So now you've got these hundreds of players competing for what, 40 spots at a tour card? It seems a little misguided, and that's what I don't like about the current playoff system and the current tour card top 100 list in general.
And that's one thing. And I have to ask, does that seem unfair? Because it seems unfair to me. It's almost like how all-star games have reverted to like who's the best player on the team to who's the most popular.
Right. And this is, it is a meritocracy, but year over year, it kind of does become one of those. And I'll tell you about popularity contests. There's things called sponsor exemptions, which basically says if you didn't make the field for this tournament, if the sponsor of the tournament, let's say it's Waste Management for the Waste Management Open, let's say they really like you, they'll just throw you in the field. They'll just say, yeah, you can go ahead and play. So yeah, it is kind of a popularity contest in that way. But ultimately, when you look at golf right now, you do have to compete for the points, but it's almost like saying, I'll give you an example here since we're kind of running out of time. It's like, let's take the NBA playoffs, right? Because a lot of teams make the playoffs, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But let's say of the 10 teams that we'll call the play-in tournament the playoffs as well.
Okay.
Let's say those.
Let's
10
just say
teams,
postseason.
Yeah. Let's say the 10 teams in each conference that make the postseason, the top 8 are guaranteed to make it again the following year.
That would not be. That's not right.
No,
that's not right.
Now they could lose it after that year, but at least the immediately following year, they're kind of guaranteed for it. So then the rest of the guys, and again, it's not 100% guarantee, but it's like you gotta go like 20 and 60 to not make it type of thing. And that's what a lot of these guys are sitting in, because if you win on tour, if you make the top 30, you're guaranteed at least another 2 years on the tour of doing nothing. You could play no tournaments at all. If you finish in the top 30 this year, next year you could play 0 tournaments. You still get your card the following year after that.
See, and that makes me think that like maybe higher ups in the PGA need to sit down and kind of restructure their rules and bylaws and stuff like that.
And I think they just want protection for their top players, which I understand, I get. And, it is good for some players year to year because you get injuries and things like that. But at the same time, them reducing the amount of tour cards given, it does make it a lot harder. And now you see better players competing in smaller tournaments, which these lower level players are usually used to playing at. So thank you for bearing with me, Andrew. Thank you for bearing with me, everybody, as I rant about golf, which I'm sure you might not have been super interested in hearing about today, but hopefully you learned a little bit and got a little insight into my mind on how the PGA works. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Coffee and Sports.
Oh, now we can.